I just canceled my ChatGPT Pro subscription, and you might do the same after watching this video, because what I would like to show you is a new feature within N8N, which is still in beta, but it's definitely already pretty interesting because this might be a strong competitor to any kind of chat interface that you are used to. Now, I am within my N8N account right now, and it might not even look like this, but if I jump onto the logo right here, then you can see that this is within my N8N account, but I switched to this new chat beta hub. And this is actually quite interesting because what this gives you is a new interface, as you can see. And I am basically able to work with this just as I am used to with working with things like ChatGPT, right? So I have the usual user interface or the usual input field for a chat message. I have access to certain kinds of tools, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But the most interesting part is actually the part where you are able to change the models, because as you can see, within N8N, you are able to basically talk to any kind of model that you would like. And you can even change the models that you are talking to within one thread, while you are basically talking to one model. As you can see, there are all the big players, everything that you can imagine. And also, there's also a connection to OpenRouter. Now, if you are not familiar with OpenRouter, this is actually a very handy tool, which basically positions itself as the unified interface for LLMs, right? Because what this gives you is that by creating one account with OpenRouter, you are able to access all the models that you have inside of here. So you can have access to the big players if you want. So OpenAI and Claude and whatever. And there are also open source models that you can talk to. For instance, if you look for something like DeepSeek or any other open source model that you can imagine, then you are also able to talk to this one. So you just would create or need to create one account for this, but you have access to all the models that you are used to, including their according pricing, right? And within the chat interface the new chat interface of N8N, as you can see right here, you also have access to OpenRouter, which basically means that you can see this from my scroll bar right here, that you are basically able to use any kind of model that you would like, and if for instance you also would like to use something like Grok, right? And I don't mean Grok with a K, but I do mean Grok with a Q. And this is one of the most interesting providers of LLMs. They are not necessarily a provider themselves, but they offer hardware where certain LLMs can run, and you can decide on your own what kind of software you would like to talk to. But at the end of the day, this is giving you a very fast way how you can talk to an LLM like this one, right? Now, besides that, obviously, you also have, like the usual kind of features that you're used to, right? So you can add attachments, and you can even use the voice input, although I gotta admit that the voice input did not work for me yet. I mean, it is still in beta, so this is something that we would expect to work in the future. But at the end of the day, this gives you a lot of freedom because, as I've mentioned, you are able to use any kind of model that you like. And the big difference is here, obviously, that if you are connected with your API key to any of those models, any of those kinds of platforms, especially OpenRouter, then you would only need to pay for what you're using, right? So there wouldn't be necessarily a usual subscription as you are used to, but you're able to talk to any model. And if you're using it, then you would pay for it. And if you don't, you don't, right? So it's a pay-as-you-go service, if you will. So for instance, if I just said hello, just to show you how this works, then this is going to answer right away, right? Hello, can I assist you today? And this is basically now talking to the model GPT OSS, right? The big one. So it's 120 billion parameters. And this gives you a lot of freedom. And as I've mentioned, within the chat itself, you can even change the kinds of models that you would like to talk to. So if, for instance, I wanted to use a different model right here, and if I looked for OpenRouter, and for instance, I want to, talk to Kimi 2.5, for instance, and I just continue the conversation, then I can just do that. So if I said something like, what can you help me with, right? Then this is giving me the answer. And now it is basically responding with the according model that I just chose, right? So this was GPT OSS, and now this is actually Kimi, right? And this gives you a lot of freedom how you can basically structure your conversations depending on the task that you would like to achieve. Now, besides that, you also have access to tools, right? So if I open up the tool selection right here, then you can see that this is currently selected to a couple of tools that I have given it, right? That I have given it access to. And if I jump onto this cogwheel right here, then you can see that these are the tools that I already configured for my specific purpose. But I also have access currently to 273 different kinds of tools. And these are all obviously connected to N8N features, right? If you are familiar with how all of these work work within N8N, especially if you have worked with AI, building AI agents within N8N, then all of these are quite familiar, should be quite familiar with you. So if you wanted to talk, to your database, so for instance, you wanted to have it be able to talk to your Airtable database, or if this was Postgres, or you wanted to give it access to any of your Telegram tools or whatever, then you can actually add this to the functionality of this specific thread, right, of this specific conversation that you're having with this specific model. And in addition to this, if I was also, if I select one of these, then you can see that if I'm within the selection right here, that I also have access to the MCP client, right? And the MCP client, if you're familiar with this, then this is also, like the gateway to a lot of more features and third-party services that offer these kinds of MCP servers, right? So this is like an easy way how you can, build your own agent on steroids, if you will, and have it access to any kind of feature that you like. For instance, my tools that I selected right here is an MCP client which is connected to a Supabase, a database from myself, right? And then in addition to this is connected to a SERP API. Then I also added a web search, which is using the Olama web search feature. And this is actually kind of an insider tip. So if you're interested in this, then let me know. And it's also able to conduct HTTP requests on its own, And then I also gave it the date and time tool so that it basically is able to retrieve the current date and time all the time. And so as you can see, there are basically no limits, and this is all integrated within one platform, within one interface. Now, if this wasn't enough, there are even two more features, and you can take a look at them at the top left corner right here. And the first one is to have access to a personal agent, and the second one is even more interesting because this can get really powerful if you're working with workflow agents that you have built yourself. And I'm going to show you this in a second. So the first one is a personal agent, and if you are familiar with something like like custom GPTs from the ChatGPT interface, for instance, then this is almost exactly like this, right? So what I can do is just create a new agent in the top right corner. And if I created this, then I can just give it an icon and a name, a description, and also a system prompt, right? So this could also be, like an agent or like a really specific system prompt that I give the character profile to so that it exactly knows what it's supposed to do and become an expert in. Now, in addition to this, I can also select the model, right? And I have the same freedom, if you will, that I also had before. And then in addition to this, there are going to be tools available, right? If I chose the according model. Now, the availability of a certain or of tools themselves depends on the model that you are using, right? This is the same as you would have with any other provider. So for instance, I chose something like Gemini, then this would give me access to different kinds of tools if I was using Kimi or whatever. So this depends on that, but still at the end of the day, this agent will then be equipped with all those features that you choose, right? So if I close this again and I go to this personal assistant and I will jump into this, then you can see that I'm now basically able to chat with this specific assistant that I just created myself, right? And this can be obviously, become like a really professional expert in a certain field that you have that you equip with dedicated capabilities that you then are able to use on your own. And then the last point are the so-called workflow agents. Now, these are extremely interesting because what you're able to do, and you can see that you can't just, create a workflow agent just like you would do with the personal agents. What you would need to do beforehand is to actually have a workflow which is going to be set up so that you are able to use it right here, And the way you do this is actually quite simple. Because what I can do is just jump into my N8N account, and then I'm just going to create a new workflow. And within this new workflow, I'm going to use the chat trigger node right here. And this is already the main part, because what you now need to basically activate is to make it available in the N8N chat hub, right? So if I click on this, then again, you have the ability to choose an icon. You can choose a name and a description, and then also have a couple of fields depending on what the specific features are that you need to equip it with. But at the end of the day, this is basically already like the gateway, and don't forget to publish it, by the way. So if you publish this on this right and you click on publish, then now it is basically able to be connected to the workflow agent field. So I'm going to jump into the chat window right here, now into the workflow agent, and now you can see that this is actually the workflow that I just created, my workflow 18, right? And now I can just talk to this specific one just as you would before. And if now I click on open workflow on the top right corner again, then it actually jumps right into the specific workflow. And if now you can imagine what you can actually do with this, right? Because obviously what you want to have or what you need would be an AI agent, right? And you can just build it and equip it with all the features that you would like. But this doesn't have to stop there, right? So if there is, any kind of other action that you would like it to perform while you are talking to it, then you can just do this, right? And this can get really, really powerful. And this can get an interesting use case if you are familiar familiar with how you can build these. So if I have my agent right here and I'm going to choose the OpenRouter, or I'm going to choose any, LLM right here. So let's just use, I don't know, GPT-5 Mini or something. Then this agent is going to be, or is going to have access to the specific model, and I'm going to publish the changes that I just did. And now if I jump back into this workflow right here, then I can just say hello. And then it's going to greet me back. Hello, how can I help you today? And if now I jump into the workflow and into the executions, then you can see that this was actually just the message that I sent it to, right? All right, so if I now jump back into the chat interface right here, then you can see that I actually tested this quite a lot, because I also was kind of skeptical if it is actually worth the hype, if you will. But the freedom that it gave me, right, and also the functionality, this is going to be going to get extremely interesting. It is, as I've mentioned, still in beta, but the potential is immense, especially because you are able to not only talk to any kind of model that you like, and you're not only able to build your own personal agents and assistants, which are going to be, equipped with all the features that you would want it to have, but because in addition to this, you are even able to talk to your own workflows, if you will, right? And these can get as complex as it gets. All right, so this is already it for today. Let me know if this is a feature you would like to try out, and thanks a lot for your attention. Hope to see you next time, and bye.